Mimori is an ugly disgusting loser who was getting beaten down by his stepfather as he couldn't bear to look at his ugly face, while his mom was too busy binge-watching soap operas to notice anything. Mimori then wakes up inside a bus, realizing that it was just a dream from the past. He notices a boy named Shugo Oyamada, bullying the class president Ayaka Sogu for reading a romance novel, and asks for her contact in exchange for giving back the book. Nobody in the bus including the class teacher seems to care, and Mimori knows that compared to them he's nothing but a fly, but still decides to step in because he's the MC. Oyamada mocks him for trying to be a hero, but just then one of the class elites, Kurihara Takuto, asks him to stop as their quarreling is making him uncomfortable. Oyamada knows that he's no match for Takuto, and returns the book to Sogu, while Mimori wonders if he acted out of character due to the dream he had. Just then, they hear some spell being cast, and everyone on the bus is teleported to another world. The girl introduces herself as the goddess Vicious, who has summoned them to fight against the great demon emperor, but as the students start to panic, the class teacher calms them down, telling them that they should listen to this goddess with great personality.
Oh my!
Takuto asks the goddess about returning home, and she tells them that the reverse summoning requires a special magical element, called Evil Element, which can be obtained either by obtaining the heart of the great demon emperor, or absorbing the element into a crystal necklace after killing the great demon. She gets on her knees, and begs them to save her world. Sogu tells them that they are just ordinary humans, however, the goddess tells them that they each have a special power. The students think that she's pulling a prank on them, but she brings out a criminal, and unleashes a wild beast on him. The beast kills the man, and she uses her magic to kill the beast, which shocks the student, making them realize that they really are in a different world. The goddess brings out a crystal to test the abilities of the students, and starts to measure everyone's talent. Oyamada measures his ability, and he makes the crystal glow brighter than anyone else. The goddess and the soldiers are overjoyed to see this, and Oyamada learns that he's an A-class hero. Takuto measures his ability, and he makes the crystal shatter into pieces, and the goddess tells him that this makes him an S-class hero. Sogu also turns out to be S-class, however, when Mimori puts his hand on the crystal it glows with a light purple light indicating that he is an E-class, and he realizes that he's a loser in this world too.
Emotional, damn it!
A student named Yasu makes the crystal glow with a dark magic, and the goddess tells them that he has the same skill of the dark hero in the past who was held as the strongest. Hearing this makes Yasu smile creepily as his time has finally come, and he can finally let out his dark desires.
My time has come.
Afterwards, the goddess teaches them how to open their status window, and Mimori notices that his stats are really low, but he has the unique skill to inflict status ailments, and the goddess explains that unique skills are special skills that only the individual can use. Oyamada tells the goddess that they should let them rest now, however the goddess has one more special ritual to conduct, and she calls Mimori forward. She makes him enter a magic circle and tells everyone that in the past, the weakest hero has always dragged down the entire party. So, they have decided to execute them, however, she'll not kill Mimori in front of everyone, instead she'll send him to an abandoned ruin, and if he manages to come back alive, they will let him live. Mimori wonders if this ruin is dangerous, and the goddess tells that they have sent many dangerous criminals and heroes there in the past, and no one has come back alive. Scared for his life, Mimori tells her that he has a unique skill called Abnormal State Endowment, but she tells him that this skill is worthless as his ugly face. Takuto tells Mimori to just give up, and get it over with as the girls are getting tired because of their exhausting trip, and the other students agree with him. The goddess begins the teleportation ritual, and since every hero is supposed to receive a unique item, she gives him a worthless leather bag which can do nothing but glow when he puts magic into it. Sogu tries to stand up for Mimori, but the goddess knocks her out with a punch. Mimori then gets pissed off at the goddess and tries to paralyze her, but she has a protective barrier around, and Mimori's skill is too weak to even put a scratch on it. The goddess asks Mimori if he has any last words, and he remembers that back when he was young, his inner self was telling him that he should show his true self that he has been hiding all this time. Mimori tells the goddess that he will kill her if he manages to make it back alive, and gets teleported away. In the ruins, he can't even open his status window because it's too dark, and he pours magic into his bag to make some light. As he wanders around he trips on some skull, but it also saves his life as a monster was about to attack him. He tries to run away, and starts crying, but realizes that it's not because he's scared, it's because he's frustrated. Since he doesn't have any option he decides to fight back using his paralyze attack which works on the monster. He thinks it might have been a fluke, and he encounters another monster. He tries the spell on the monster, and it works as well. He checks his status, and learns that he has only 1 MP left. He tries to use another skill poison, and realizes that he can combine multiple spells. However, he has no MP left, and the monster from before is free from his paralyze spell. He decides to use his own mana and tries to paralyze the monster, but it doesn't work as the system doesn't allow him to use the same attack on the same monster. So, he uses a sleep spell and poison on the monster. Just then, many other monsters appear, and Mimori wonders if his mana can hold on while he casts paralyze on each of them. However, he gets exhausted soon, but as he's about to collapse, the system shows a notification that he has leveled up, and his MP is restored because the monster he initially poisoned had died. Mimori is glad to finally find a hack to level up.
Perfect!
He continues to paralyze the monster followed by poisoning them. As his level increases, he can now target multiple monsters at a time within a certain range, but he still can't overlap the same skill on the same target. As the monsters slowly die, Mimori's level keeps increasing. He also uses his sleep skill on the monsters that he poisoned which levels up his sleep skill as well. He notices the skeletons of people who have died there, and collects loot from them. He searches for food but can't find anything in the dungeon, so he heads back and decides to eat the monsters which he killed. However, their skin is so hard to butcher, so he plucks out one of the eyes of a monster, and tries to eat it, but it's so gross that he can't swallow. He wonders if this is how he's going to die, but just then he notices that the gem on his leather bag is changing its color. He thinks that it's going out of charge, and pours some of his magic. Suddenly, he finds out that the food from his world has magically appeared inside the bag. Wow! He is relieved that he can finally eat, but he's not sure if the bag will keep producing food. In the following days, he continues to kill the monsters, and recalls how his uncle and aunt took him in, and taught him kindness. He thought that he had become like them, but realizes that he's just lying to himself after seeing the massacre in front of him. He's scared of his current self, but he accepts that this is who he truly is, and all monsters die. He levels up to 957, and continues to explore the ruin. He encounters a monster, and kills it using his ability. He comes across a door, and pours mana into the gem to unlock the door. He finds the remains of the dead couple, and pays respect to them, before looting the bag of gems. He checks other rooms in the area, and comes across a room which takes more than normal amounts of mana to open up. He finds the remains of another body, and notices a letter. After reading, he learns that this man was a great sage called Anglin Bathrad, who is the hero of darkness, and Mimori recalls goddess mentioning it. Mimori learns that Anglin was put there by the goddess as he was no longer useful to her, and now he wants to entrust the things he managed to bring to the ruins to someone who is determined to escape the ruins. He finds a book of forbidden arts among the Anglin's belongings, and he notices that the recipes for magic tools and medicines are written in the book. He also finds a scroll of forbidden magic, and he can't read it, but he is sure that it contains some powerful magic, so he decides to keep it. As he is about to leave, he notices a warning in the book written in blood to beware of the Soul Eater. Mimori finally finds the exit door, but notices that he needs a gem to fit in there to open it up, and thinks that it must be with the Soul Eater. He checks his stats, and with a level of 1229, he thinks it should be enough to fight the Soul Eater. He finds the Soul Eater, and sees the gem on its forehead. He tries to attack it, but gets shot even before he could cast his spell. He needs to say the skill name out loud to make it work, but the monster is not giving him time for that. Mimori realizes that this thing must be the boss of the ruins, and the one responsible for killing the Dark Hero and others. Meanwhile, a girl is escaping from some people, and decides to enter the ruins. Back in the ruins, Soul Eater approaches Mimori, and vomits out some stuff that transforms into the people which the Soul Eater has killed. The Soul Eater is trying to show him the expressions of others just before their death, and sneaks up on Mimori by breaking a wall. As the human-like monster approaches him, he uses his paralyze skill, but he can't bring himself to poison them as they look like humans. Soul Eater enjoys seeing him conflicted, and it creates some more human-like monsters. Mimori asks them to stay away and cries, telling them he doesn't want to lose his humanity. However, it's just an act to catch the Soul Eater off guard, and he uses his other hand to use his paralyze spell followed by poison. He mocks the Soul Eater for looking down on him, and increases his poison effect. The Soul Eater dies, freeing the souls of the victims of the ruins. They have all been watching him till now, and they thank him for defeating the Soul Eater. The Dark Hero tells him to get revenge on the goddess for him, and they all disappear. Mimori then uses the gem to open the gates of the ruins, and he finally makes it out. Meanwhile, the other students are hunting monsters in the forest and leveling up. One of the students named Kabato thinks she can't kill the monsters, but another girl named Asaji tells her that they will kill her if she doesn't. Asaji thinks that their class will fall into pieces as everyone is selfish, and they were also ranked. She's a B class, and asks Kabato, who is D class, to join their faction as she can't get into the Kurihara group. Even though Kabato's power is weak, she still has some massive weapons which they can make use of.
Yeah, boy.
Asaji then asks some of her girls to bring a monster, and tells her that this is the test that the goddess gave them. Since Kabato hasn't killed any monster, Asaji asks her to kill it so that she can clear the test, else she will end up like Mimori, so Kabato has no choice, and kills the monster. She breaks down at the act of violence she just committed, and recalls the time when Mimori saved an injured cat in front of her, and apologizes to Mimori as she couldn't do anything. Elsewhere, Ayaka wakes up in her room, recalling what had happened. She confronts the goddess, and asks about Mimori. The goddess put on her shitty acting, and tells her that she had no choice but to send him to ruins as it's the policy of the kingdom. While Ayaka was knocked out for a few days, the rest of the students were tested for their abilities, but some of them were disqualified since they couldn't kill any demons. They will need to be banished from the kingdom, but Ayaka doesn't agree with her methods. She tells the goddess that since she is a S-class, she'll cover for those who can't pass, and asks her to cancel their banishment. The goddess accepts her proposal, and apologizes for punching her gut. Near the ruins, the girl from earlier is once again running away from her pursuers. She had thought that she had lost them, but they are still on her tail. The pursuers are a group called White Walkers, and one of them tracks down the way she went. Meanwhile, Mimori checks his updated stats, and decides to test his ability on nearby demons. He encounters a group of slime attacking a small slime, and although it tries to fight back, it's being overpowered. Mimori steps in, and using his skill he paralyzes the other slime. He notices that now he can use advanced settings, and releases the other slimes. He commends the small slime for facing against the other slimes, and releases his bind. He bids farewell to the slime, but it keeps following him. Mimori then reads the Book of Forbidden Arts, and he has the slime watch his back. He notices that there is a medicine listed in the book which can make slime stronger, and the Dark Hero must have hid it so that it doesn't fall into wrong hands. He tells the slime that he is going to dedicate his life to taking revenge on that shitty goddess, and asks the slime if it really wants to be his companion. The slime changes to green color showing a positive response, and he names the slime Pigamaru. Meanwhile, the girl realizes that she can't shake the White Walkers, so she puts on her spirit equipment called Spirit Regalia and prepares to fight. However, the White Walkers encounter Mimori, and he pretends to be scared by them. The White Walkers talk about killing and robbing him. They continue to talk about their future plans after capturing the girl, and plans on doing hardcore plot development with her.
What do you mean by that?
Mimori tries to back away, and one of the White Walkers notices this. He charges at Mimori to kill him, but he uses the paralyze spell on him along with the others, and he is relieved that his ability works on humans as well. Now he doesn't have any problem with killing humans, and he uses his poison spell to finish them off. Meanwhile, the girl preparing to fight senses something, and attacks Pigamaru. Mimori paralyzes her, and asks her for information on everything around here. She asks about the White Walkers, and Mimori tells her that he took care of them. She's surprised to learn that he took care of them all alone, and decides to give him all the information he wants. After getting the info, Mimori asks her about the ancient script. Although she can't read it, she tells him there was someone who went by the name Forbidden Witch, and she may be able to help him. He can find her in the middle of this continent, but it's a dangerous zone called the Golden Demon Zone. He then bids her farewell, and tells her that she'll be free in a few minutes. As he leaves, he tells Piggy that he kills only by his own rules, and asks Piggy to watch his back, in case she decides to attack him. Meanwhile, in a guild we see a high bounty placed on a holy knight named Sarah's Ashrain, who is a former princess of a high elven nation, and it's the same girl from the ruins. Sometime later, Mimori reaches the city, and gets in under the pretext of being a mercenary heading for the ruins. He goes to a hotel to book a room, and meets the receptionist. He tells him the price, and thinks a ugly loser like him can't afford it, but when Mimori pulls out a silver coin, his attitude changes soon, and Mimori introduces himself with a fake name Hattie Skull. After getting settled, he takes a look around the city, and goes back to have his dinner. He notices a group of people discussing the strongest knight regiment, and they agree that the strongest must be the Black Dragon Knights of the Bacchus Empire who wiped out the Holy Empire of Ni, and they have also got the humanity's strongest, the Hero Slayer on their side. Mimori then heads back to his room, and feeds Piggy. He thinks about his future plans, and thinks that his top priority is to find the Witch of Taboos who can read the scroll of forbidden magic. He thinks about ways to increase Piggy's ability, and learns that he needs a powdered bone from a skeleton king to make the medicine. He recalls the group talking about a new floor being discovered in the mill's ruins, and decides to take part in the ruins expedition. The following day a guy named Marquis welcomes everyone to explore the ruins, and offers 300 gold pieces to find a Dragon Eye Chalice. They will also be paid for other treasure that they can bring, and they are free to use any monster material they obtain. They start the registration process, and a guy suspects a girl in the hood being Sarah's Ashrain as he has met her once, so he can tell that it's her by the massive personality she's carrying.
Lord have mercy. We must stay focused, brothers. We must stay focused.
However, as he removes her hood, it turns out to be a different girl, and she introduces herself as Mist Belucas. He gets mocked by others for making wrong judgment, and he leaves angry. Later, on his way to shopping, Mimori comes across Mist, and she learns that he's there to explore the ruins as well. Mimori then asks her help with buying items to explore the ruins, and she agrees. He introduces himself, but tells her that it's a fake name, and they shouldn't share their real names for now. She helps Mimori with the shopping, and he pays her for her assistance. As she's about to leave, she collapses, and Mimori notices the dark circles under her eyes, realizing that she hasn't slept for days, but she tells him that she'll be fine and leaves. As he enters the mill's ruins, he sees a few adventurers running away from a mini version of the minotaurs he faced in the ruins of Disposal. He takes care of it, and later when the adventurers return they are surprised that someone has already killed the minotaur. Mimori continues to explore, and sees the guy from earlier planning to kill Mist. They talk about doing all kinds of gory stuff with her which pisses off Mimori, and he uses his ability on them. The guy swears to take revenge, but Mimori lets them get eaten by a group of monsters. He takes a nap while Piggy is on guard, and after completing his nap he continues to explore. He comes across a few adventurers who are returning back because monsters are dying in strange ways, and they offer him to return with them. Mimori realizes that they saw the corpses of the monster he killed, so he declines their offer, and continues to explore. He enters a room where he finds the Dragon Eye Chalice, and sees a statue, but he has seen too many Isekai Insights videos and realizes that it's a monster guarding the chalice. So, he uses his ability to kill the monster, and obtains the chalice. Just then, Mist appears, and he tells her that she can have the chalice if she wants it, and gives it to her. She can't believe that he gave her the chalice, which is worth 300 gold coins, and is willing to repay him in any way he wants.
Yes! 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 Yes!
But Mimori, being the Gigachad, doesn't want anything in return, and proceeds to open a secret passage.
No! No! No!
He tells her that his objective isn't the treasure, but it's a monster lurking below, and she insists on being his guard as she can't accept the chalice for free. Mimori accepts her offer, and they head down. Mist cuts down a monster, and Mimori is impressed by her skill. He asks her about the difference between the monsters with and without the golden eyes. He learns that the monsters with golden eyes are the perfect prey for other world heroes to level up, as they can't level up by killing people. The other monsters are normal ones, and are even capable of forming positive relationships with humans. According to legend, the Demon King radiates a special energy known as Demon King Essence, and the monsters strongly influenced by it turn into golden-eyed. Mimori wonders if the golden color is a sign of something ominous, and recalls that Takuto was a golden hero. They enter a room to take some rest, but Mist can still sense a monster around them. Mimori reveals Piggy to her, and she introduces herself to it. Mimori then asks her to take a nap, but she refuses. However, Mimori convinces her to lie down, and casts a sleep spell on her. As she sleeps, she turns into her original self, and Mimori realizes that she was Sarah's Ash Rain. The Black Dragon Knights find the White Walkers dead, and wonder if Sarah's has done this using her spirit regalia, and the humanity's strongest, Civit Gartland is excited to face her. Later Sarah's wakes up, and wonders when she fell asleep. She's relieved to see Mimori sleeping as well, and hopes he hasn't seen her in real form. However, Mimori is pretending to be asleep, and he pretends to be woken up by her. They continue their journey, and come across a large room, but there is no one inside. Just then, they hear some noise, and a skeleton king comes out breaking the walls. Sarah's tells him that the silver part below the chin is the weakest part of the monster, but this monster is on a whole different league, so she'll need to use her secret technique, spirit regalia. She's worried as she's not sure if she can beat this monster, and asks Mimori to run if she fails. However, Mimori is excited to see the monster, and he uses his ability on the monster to take care of it, and Sarah's is rizzed up seeing him in action.
Oh man, this is so uncomfortable. I didn't think I'd get this wet.
Mimori collects the materials from the Skeleton King, and also finds an egg. Piggy seems to be interested in the egg, so he decides to take it back home. Meanwhile, in some other dungeon, we see a few students running away from a skeleton monster, and Sogu is trying to protect everyone. Just then, Oyamata appears, blasting one of the skeletons with his powers. Takuto also uses his power to vaporize the skeleton, but its effect is so powerful that it's about to kill two girls, but Sogu saves them. However, Takuto couldn't care less, as he leveled up to 24. Back at the mill's ruins everyone is surprised to see the Dragon-Eyed Chalice, and she informs Mimori about the reception being held tomorrow where she'll be awarded for the chalice. Mimori asks her to come to his place at night, and Sarah's happily agrees to it.
Yeah, boy.
Later at night, Mimori feeds Piggy the monster enchantment solution, and just then Sarah's visits him. Mimori tells her that he wants her to take care of his body, I meant he wants her to be his bodyguard. He wants to go to the land of the golden-eyed monster in search of the Witch of Taboos, and Sarah's thinks that this is convenient for her as she wants to go to Duchy of Yamato which is near to this place, but she's still hesitant because of her identity. However, Mimori reveals to her that he knew her identity when she fell asleep in the mill's ruins, and it was his skill that put her to sleep. He assures her that he won't sell her out, and she transforms to her original self, showing her faith in him. Mimori also reveals his true name, and asks her to keep it secret. She then agrees on being his bodyguard, and he offers her a blue dragon gem as payment. Ceres is shocked as it's more valuable than the Dragon Eye Chalice, and couldn't accept such a huge payment, but Mimori convinces her to keep it. Later, Ceres cleans herself, and thinks that she should have done this before meeting him. She wants to believe in him, and goes to bed thinking about her Riz Lord.
Oh yeah. Yeah, baby! Yeah.
The following day, they have breakfast together, and Mimori asks her about forbidden magic. She tells him that it's a magic forbidden by the goddess Vicious, and it contains ancient magic, while Mimori is too busy wondering why she's covering her giant plots with her arm. He thanks for the information, and she keeps getting rizzed up for no reason. Ceres then takes off for the morning reception, and they decide to meet in the afternoon. During the reception, Marquis informs that he has brought in a mage to ensure the authenticity of the Dragon Eye Chalice, and the mage specializes in dispelling illusions. Back in the goddess castle called Alien Castle, Vicious tells Sogu that she has healed Sakura, who was injured. However, she only healed her because she was a B-class, and wonders if Sogu will be joining Kurihara's group, but Sogu has no intention of joining those jerks who don't care for human life. She tells Vicious that she'll fulfill her duty as S-class hero in her own way, and Vicious tells her to train the students who couldn't pass their trials. If she refuses, Vicious will have to dispose of them, so Sogu accepts her condition, and leaves, while Vicious is pissed at Sogu for trying to save the weak students. Meanwhile, Mimori is waiting for Ceres, and it's past their meeting time, but she doesn't show up. They wonder if she got into some trouble, and hears some people talking about Ceres' cover being blown up. She has escaped to the dark forest, and the Black Dragon Knights are hunting her. In the dark forest, Ceres fights against the Black Dragon Knights, and defeats a few of them. Just then, she gets attacked by a dragon, but realizes that it's just a decoy, and she faces off with the vice-captain of the Dragoon Squad Gizem. Although the actual orders are to catch her alive, his squad is under secret orders to kill her, but being the typical villain, he's enticed by her beauty, and wants her to give taste of his meat stick. He overpowers her, and jumps onto her for hardcore plot development, but just then Mimori comes in for the rescue. He uses his paralyze and poison ability on Gizem, and then puts him to sleep. Ceres doesn't want to cause trouble for Mimori, so she asks him to revoke their contract, and tries to give back his blue gem. However, Mimori tells her that he can't find anyone else with such a massive personality, and he only wants her to be his bodyguard. He then throws her the whole bag of blue gems, and asks her to take off her clothes.
Yes! 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 Yes!
However, it's only because she might be recognized in that outfit, and he gives her new clothes.
No! No! No!
Ceres reminds him that she still hasn't confirmed their agreement, and Mimori tells her that she can negotiate with the Witch of Taboos to have her sheltered. Since he's heading to find the Witch of Taboos, Ceres can join him. Also, seeing her reminds him of his aunt, so he can't abandon her. After that, they ask Gizem about the person who ordered them to kill Ceres, but just then he's killed by Civit's attack, and Mimori is shocked to see him. Meanwhile, we see the king having a nightmare about Civit asking for Ceres, and he wakes up terrified. Back in the forest, Ceres is scared shitless to see the great 5 Black Dragon Knights, and Mimori notices that one of them is missing. Civit reveals to Ceres that the Emperor Ortola is one who ordered to kill her, and we learn that the Emperor is the ultimate perv lord, who was obsessed with Ceres, and lusted over her body. The thought of her being defiled by another man was something he couldn't handle, so he would prefer her dead instead.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
Ceres is shocked to learn that the Emperor whom she served is out to kill her, and they are told to bring her corpse with her purity intact. The Dragon Knight member tells her that they'll let her go if she wins a duel against Civit. However, Civit is now more interested in Mimori, and asks about him. Mimori realizes that they are out of his spell range, and Civit is humanity's strongest knight. He introduces himself as Hattie Skull, and Civit instantly knows that it's a fake name. The other Black Knight members wonder why Civit is so interested in him, and he tells them that Mimori is not afraid of standing in front of them. He also knows that Mimori is waiting for an opening to attack him, and the other members are surprised. Mimori knows that Civit wants to satisfy his hunger for a formidable opponent, and asks why he couldn't fight the goddess Vicious. Civit mentions that they have forged a close relationship with Vicious, but he has high hopes for the heroes she summoned from another world, and he believes that someday they will prove to be worthy foes. Civit tells Ceres that he will bring her head to the princess, and it was because of her that they invaded the city Ni. Their goddess demanded they hand over Ni's little paladin, but their holy emperor refused, resulting in the invasion. Mimori then thinks of a plan, and tells him that he'll become his opponent who can challenge him. He reveals his real identity, and tells him that he's a summoned hero by the goddess. Civit believes him, and Mimori realizes that Civit has the ability to detect lies. So he carefully chooses his sentences, and tells him that he's in a special situation where he's in a different league compared to his classmates, which is technically true since he's an E-class hero. Mimori asks Civit to postpone their fight, as he'll grow strong enough to kill him, and this excites Civit. He wonders how Mimori plans to do this, and Mimori tells him about his journey to the land of monsters. His path is different from his classmates, and the goddess Vicious has granted him that freedom, which is also technically true as the goddess told him that they would let him have the right to live freely if he makes it out of the dungeon. He'll definitely return to the goddess no matter what, and Civit doesn't sense any lie in him. He allows Mimori to leave, but Ceres will be killed. However, Mimori tells him that he needs her power in order to make it through the land of monsters, and although the other Black Knight members are against it, Civit decides to spare her too. Civit bids them farewell, and he's looking forward to the day when he meets Mimori again. However, this was all part of Mimori's plan to let Civit let his guard down, and he casts his paralyze spell on all of the Black Knights, making them fall down. He then casts poison on all of them, and Civit tries to attack him, but he fails. Mimori is surprised as this is the first time someone moves so much after being hit by his paralyze and poison combo. Just then, one of the members passes away, and his death signals a squad nearby. Civit tries to warn the squad, and asks them to take care of Mimori from long range. However, Mimori uses the power he gained from the monster enhancement solution, and uses Piggy's ability to reach the other squad members, enabling him to use his abilities on them as well. He considers them as lab rats, and experiments his other abilities on them. All of them die except for Civit, who is still holding on, but eventually perishes. Later, Ceres changes her outfit, and seeing her makes Mimori recall his aunt. Ceres then tells him about the hero Slayer who is one of the 5 members of the Dragon Knights, and he has the potential to surpass Civit. However, based on her description Mimori realizes that he already took care of him before reaching her, and Ceres is shocked that he was even able to defeat the hero Slayer so easily. Elsewhere, Ayaka is checking her stats, and she's disappointed that she still hasn't awakened her unique skill. The other heroes are also with her, and one of Vicious' followers named Nyantan comes there on behalf of Vicious. Oyamada tries to mock her, but she knocks him down in an instant. She then tells the students to return to the capital as they are about to enter the next stage. Later at night, as Mimori and Ceres set out on their journey, Ceres vows to make use of her strength for his revenge, as he risked his life for her. Meanwhile, back at the goddess castle, Vicious asks Nyantan to lick her feet to show her loyalty, and Nyantan fulfills her weird foot fetish.
I'm gonna come. Oh.
Stop it. Get some help.
Vicious tells her that the day when the heroes and the Demon Empire clash may be closer than she expects. We then see some soldiers in the ruins of Disposal, but the crystal they use is not reacting, so they think it's malfunctioning as they believe that ruins of Disposal have 0 survival rate. Later, we see Mimori checking out a mask, and the shopkeeper explains that this mask belonged to the Lord of Flies who once turned an island of monsters into a fortress, and became the master of demons. However, eventually his army was wiped out, but they went down in a cool way, so they are still popular. Meanwhile, Ceres is thinking about Mimori, and since she couldn't develop any plot with him, she resolves to focus on being his sword for now. Later, Mimori checks out his new mask which he bought to hide his ugly face, and thinks he's not a good hero. So, this evil mask defines him much better, and he resolves to put the goddess in her place. Inside the castle of Magnar Kingdom, the kings of the allied nations are surprised to learn about the defeat of the 5 Black Dragon Knights, and they can't believe that even humanity's strongest was also killed. Vicious tells them that they were pursuing Ceres before they were killed, but they only found her bloody clothes at the scene, so they believe she was seriously wounded. They also learn that the perv Emperor Ortola lost his mind, and he too passed away last night. Vicious mentions that the Black Dragons were their best bet against the Demon Empire, but now they will have to rely more on the heroes from the other world. They ask Vicious about the legends of God Slayer, but she sees no point in bringing up such myths. They wonder if Ceres was responsible for the deaths of the Black Dragons, and just then, they receive information that a group of cursed magic users of Ashint are claiming responsibility. The following day, Mimori and Ceres enter a town, and Mimori notices a coliseum. Ceres tells him that it's an arena where the slaves and mercenaries kill each other, and they can earn rewards by winning matches. This is run by the Mercenary Guild and the Duke, and right now it's the prime source of entertainment for the people, although it was started as a place for mercenary guilds to assess the fighters. They then head out to an inn, and while Mimori was trying to book room for 2, Ceres suggests they buy a single room to save money.
Yeah, boy.
In the evening, while having dinner, they overhear that Ceres was killed by the Black Dragon Knights, and they were killed by the Ashint group. Just then, some members of Ashint enter the inn like they own the place, but Mimori is glad that they took the blame for killing the Black Dragon Knights. Meanwhile, some other guys think that only the Witch of Taboos could do this, but it's been over a decade since someone actually met her. One of them remembers that someone in this city has met the Witch of Taboos, and hearing this, Mimori asks them to tell more about it by offering them drinks. He learns that the strongest Bloodsport champion of this town named Eve Speed, has met the witch, and he can see her in the Colosseum, but just then, Eve enters the inn. Mimori introduces himself as Hattie, and asks her about the Witch of Taboos. However, she denies meeting the witch, and Ceres notices something off about her response. Eve tells him to stay away from the land of the Golden Eye Monster, as it's too dangerous, and his ugly ass wouldn't even last 3 days there. Later, she tells Mimori that Eve was lying, and Mimori realizes that she must know the whereabouts of the witch. Afterwards, they head to their room, and Mimori realizes that he forgot to bring food for Piggy, so he decides to use his magic bag to feed it. Ceres also tries some of it, and she really loves it. They then discuss getting the info from Eve, and Ceres thinks that she's probably after money, as they can buy their freedom using it. Meanwhile, we see Eve meeting a dark elven girl, and she assures her that she will get her out. Back at the inn, Ceres practices her swordsmanship, and Mimori notices that her swordsmanship is gorgeous. Mimori then asks her to teach him some moves as he might need it at some point. Ceres agrees, and she asks him to assault her.
Oh, behave. Yeah. Yeah, baby. Yeah.
What she meant was to attack her, and Mimori tries to punch her, but she overpowers him easily. She tells him that he can use this move on enemies he doesn't want to injure seriously, but she suddenly steps back realizing that she was all sweaty. Later, Ceres sniffs Mimori's clothes, and wonders when did she become such a perv. Just then, Mimori came from behind, looking for his clothes, and she told him that she had brought them with her to wash them. Later at night, Ceres notices that Mimori is awake, and he tells her that he can't fall asleep. Ceres takes this chance to make a medicinal herb which induces sleep, and Mimori decides they take this together with soup. However, when they drink the soup, Ceres realizes that she has mixed up the ingredients, and they are more refreshed now. Mimori then decides to read the book, but he can't seem to settle down, and looks at Sarah's.
私に何かできることはあるでしょうか?
Yes! 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 Yes!
もう寝ておけ。
No! No! No!
Sarah's wonders why he's not interested in developing a plot with her, and he tells her right now taking revenge is his priority. He can't focus on anything else until then, and Sarah's vows to do everything in her power to get him his revenge. The following day, Sarah's gathers info on Eve, and tells Mimori that she had already earned the funds to buy her freedom 2 years ago, but she kept fighting in order to free an elven child. She also reveals that the majority of the Bloodsport champions have died during their final match, and she has heard that the Duke is behind this. Mimori thinks that this might be their lead, while Eve prepares for her fight. Mimori is certain that the management would definitely kill her as Eve is a popular Bloodsport champion, and has decided to meet up with Eve. In the evening, he meets Eve, and asks her if she lied about the Witch of Taboos because she's indebted to her. However, Eve denies it, and just then Sarah's appears, and asks Eve,
"Why the fuck you lying? Why you always lying?"
As Eve is about to get ready for a fight, Mimori tells her that they are here to save her life by warning about Duke's intention to kill her. Eve thanks him for the warning, but even if she fled there is nowhere to hide as Duke will find them. Mimori suggests that she run away with them along with the little girl to the witch's hideout, but Eve thinks that it's impossible as no one can reach the heart of the land of the monsters. Although she can sense that Sarah's is a knight who has received some martial training, Mimori looks like an ugly loser who wouldn't last a day there.
Emotional damage!
Mimori tells her that despite his looks, he is skilled with magic, and he can easily defeat a skeleton king with ease. However, Eve thinks that a skeleton king is nothing compared to what they will face in the land of monsters. So, Mimori reveals that he's the one who killed the Black Knights, and uses Paralyze on Eve to demonstrate his power. This is the power he used to defeat humanity's strongest, and Sarah's reveals her identity to convince her. Mimori then releases his spell. However, Eve is still adamant on fighting tomorrow as she believes that Duke will grant her freedom if she wins. Mimori wonders if she's just saying this to convince herself, and that she's absolutely sure that Duke wouldn't betray her. This puts Eve in deep thought, and Mimori says that they will leave this town early tomorrow morning, and they will wait by the bridge at the front gate if she changes her mind. Later, Sarah's apologizes to Mimori for revealing her identity without his permission, but he doesn't mind it at all as it made their argument more convincing. Just then, they notice a few members of Ascent group who are trying to scam people, and Sarah's is pissed that they are taking credit for something they didn't do. On their way, they see some members trying to force a girl to develop a plot with their leader, and they start beating her. However, Mimori decides to teach them a lesson and casts his berserk spell on them, which makes them fight against each other, and the girl uses this opportunity to escape. Later, we see Eve trying to sleep, but she couldn't sleep as she is worried about what Mimori said, so she goes to spy on the Duke. Eve learns that Duke is planning to give her a paralytic poison before the fight, and when she dies they will skin her. They plan to give it to the new champion, and sell the winner as Leopard Slayer. Also, the Duke plans to raise the child as his pet, and when he gets tired of her he will sell her to a whorehouse. Eve is enraged hearing this, and decides to run away. On her way she meets the Ascent group leader Mwaji, who wishes her for tomorrow's battle. Afterwards, Eve meets up with Mimori, and she agrees to run away with them. Meanwhile, we see the dark elf girl being treated harshly by her owner, and she beats her down. Just then, Eve comes in to take the girl away, and is about to kill the owner, but she tells Eve that she was forced by the Duke to mistreat the girl. Eve decides to spare her under the condition that she tells everyone that they escaped in the wrong direction, and as they leave, Mimori appears. He approaches the owner, and tells her that her shitty acting won't work on him, as he has been bullied in the past. He can't stand people like her, so he casts his spell on her, and decides to make it look like a robbery. Later, we see Mimori meeting with others in the underground, and the dark elf girl introduces herself as Lisbeth. Mimori also reveals his real name, and Eve notices some watery sound coming from Mimori. So he decides to reveal about Piggy, and introduces it to them. After they escape the town, Eve wonders why Mimori wants to meet the witch, and he tells her that he needs her to decipher a scroll on forbidden magic. Eve is relieved that he doesn't intend to harm her, and she swears her loyalty to him. Eve mentions that Mimori could have used Lisbeth to extract information from her, but he didn't, so it shows that he's a good person. After that, they all get on their horses, and Mimori lets Sarah's ride, so that he can sit behind her, and enjoy the ride from the back.
What do you mean by that?
Sarah's thinks that he's really kind to let Lisbeth travel with him, but he also has an ulterior motive behind this, as he has learned that Witch of Taboos is also a dark elf, and knowing that they saved one of her kind is sure to work in their favor. After a while, the pursuers are already on their tails, and Mimori wonders how they could have found them. Eve tells him that she met Mwaji just before she left the Colosseum, and she apologizes for putting everyone at risk. She decides to face them all alone, but Mimori knows that she can't handle it alone, so they decide to set up a trap in advance. Sarah's then sends some horses running with torches tied to them to distract the first wave of chasers, and Mimori finds out that there weren't any Ascent members among them. This means that they are coming in the second wave, and he thinks that this Mwaji guy may be smart for figuring out their plan. Mimori then devises a plan with Sarah's, and Eve is surprised that he actually has a plan for beating so many people. He tells her that if they can't beat an enemy head-on, they just need to drag them somewhere where they can win, and he prepares for battle. However, Mwaji realizes their trap, and he thinks that he has figured out everything. He asks the person hiding to reveal themselves, and Sarah steps forward wearing her helmet. Mwaji promises to spare her if she hands over Eve and Lisbeth, but if she refuses he will make her suffer through his curses, and all the archers point their arrow at Sarah's. Mwaji boasts that even the 5 dragon knights, including humanity's strongest, couldn't survive against them, and Sarah's agrees to lead them under the condition that they don't hurt Eve and Lisbeth. As she tries to lead them, Mwaji realizes that she has no intention of handing them over, and she's trying to get them in range for some sort of attack. He orders his men to step back, and prepare for attack, while Sarah's wonders if he's not going to kill her with his curse. It is then revealed that the Ascent group members are the successor of the Assassin Guild, which was once declared evil by a hero from another world and exterminated. The Ascent have inherited the guild's line of work, and a drop of poison falls from the tip of an arrow. Mwaji tells her that this poison is so advanced that it can only be synthesized by a few of their members, and Sarah's realizes that this is how they kill their victims without trace. When news of the 5 dragon knights being killed by a curse spread, they decided to take advantage of the situation and claimed responsibility for it. Their goal is to use the Duke to seize a central role in the nation, and he asks her about her other allies as he's sure that she wouldn't face them alone without any other allies. Sarah's then reveals herself, and tells him that she survived after facing the 5 dragon knights. However, Mwaji doesn't believe that she can beat humanity's strongest, and shows him the guy named Belgar who's supposed to fight Eve in the finals. His brother is also there with them, and he reveals that their younger brother was part of White Walker who was chasing Sarah's. They are here to take their revenge on her, and they have completely surrounded her. However, just like every perv villain in this anime, he's also mesmerized by her beauty, and wants to develop a hardcore plot with her. He tells her that he will spare her if she bends to him, and Sarah's bends down.
Yeah, boy.
As Mwaji is about to make her the mother of his child, Mimori uses his magic to blind everyone, and uses his ability to paralyze all the members of Ascent with the help of Piggy. Mwaji wonders about his other forces, and Mimori informs him that he has already dealt with those losers. He then poisons Mwaji and his members. We then learn that Mimori has already anticipated that Mwaji will avoid entering the forest fearing the trap, so he used Sarah's as bait in order to make them believe that they are in control, which made them let their guard down while he waited for the perfect moment to strike. Mwaji dies along with his men, and Mimori asks Sarah's to update Eve on the situation. Mimori then notices that the first wave is returning, but this is exactly what he wants, and asks Piggy to merge with him. However, Piggy is already drained, as Mimori has sucked him dry during their previous session.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
Just then, the girls appear, and Eve decides to give him a hand, while Ceres takes care of Lisbeth. They then confront the soldiers, and as the soldiers are about to attack Eve, Mimori uses his spell to paralyze them all. Just then, Duke comes from behind, telling her that she has nowhere to escape. Mimori tries to paralyze them, but notices that he has already maxed out for this spell. So, he casts the blinding spell on Duke's men, and Eve starts cutting them down like vegetables. The rest of the soldiers start to flee, however, Mimori doesn't intend to let them escape, and asks Eve to take care of them. Meanwhile, he notices that he can only paralyze 80 people at max, so he keeps using his blinding spell on the soldiers. The Duke kills the soldiers who try to retreat, and he orders them to kill Mimori. Eve thanks Mimori for letting her be part of this battle, and she kills the remaining soldiers. Seeing this, Duke tries to run away, but Mimori paralyzes him, and Eve sends his head flying. Ceres and Lisbeth join them, and Lisbeth is made to cover her eyes to avoid seeing all the gore around them. Mimori then uses his ice spell on the dead bodies of Ashint, and crushes them, so that there is no trace, and he intends to let Ashint take all the blame. Afterwards, the king is informed about the murder of Duke and the soldiers, while the Ashint group has disappeared. The king is troubled, as his plan to use them has been ruined, but he's more afraid to explain this to the goddess, and orders his men to find the Ashint group. Meanwhile, we see Ceres cleaning herself in a cave, and while she's giving fan service, Lisbeth wonders if she will ever grow a massive plot like her, as the bar owner had told her that an ugly elf like her won't grow any plot. However, Ceres reassures her, and Lisbeth is glad to have another big sis like her. Later, Eve and Lisbeth are resting while Mimori and Ceres are on the watch. Ceres asks Mimori to rest, and asks him to use her lap as his pillow, but Mimori being the Jigachad rejects her offer. He then jokingly offers her to sleep on his lap, but Ceres jumps at this opportunity, and quickly goes down on him.
What do you mean by that?
She gets embarrassed realizing that he was joking, but he doesn't mind it at all, and asks her permission to feel her elven ears. Ceres gives in to his ear fetish, and as Mimori is about to make her climax, she stops him.
My disappointment is immeasurable, and my day is ruined.
She then wonders what he thinks about Eve and Lisbeth, to which he replies that Eve reminds him of his uncle, while he sees himself in Lisbeth due to the torture she endured. However, unlike her, he intends to kill everyone who threatens him, and he's not a hero who is going to save the world. He thanks Ceres for accompanying him for his revenge, and he promises her to grant her one wish within his power. We then see Niantan training Sogu, and she tells Sogu to keep their training secret as the goddess is against it. However, Sogu wonders why she's helping her, and Niantan tells her that it's because Sogu looks like her little sister. The following day, Lisbeth thanks Mimori for her new dress, and they decide to name their mercenary group as Lord of Flies Warband. They head to the land of monsters, and notice a withered tree which used to be a sacred tree. Eve asks Mimori to pour some magic onto her hand, which reveals a secret crest that displays the location of the Witch of Taboos. They decide to camp for the day, and at night, Mimori thinks that he's going to use this land of monsters as an EXP farm to level up, and he's determined to take his revenge against the goddess. The following day, the goddess tells the heroes that they have leveled up a lot, however, they still lack in combat. So, she has summoned some individuals to train them, and informs them about the upcoming battle against the Great Demon Empire. Later, she tells Niantan that she plans to make the heroes continue to level up, and send them to the land of monsters once they have learned some techniques. Meanwhile, Mimori shares some chocolate with the group, and everyone is delighted to have them, especially Ceres. Later, we see Lisbeth carrying some luggage, and Ceres offers to help, but she thinks that they will have better chances of survival if others will have to carry less. Mimori agrees to this, and asks Piggy to watch over their surroundings. As they continue on their journey, they encounter a reptilian monster, but Mimori quickly takes care of it by using his magic, and he's relieved as his magic work on the land of monsters too. He thinks they are much weaker than the monster he faced in the ruins, and proceeds to cut it. Ceres wonders what he's up to, and learns that he's trying to collect material for an ingredient for a forbidden item. He shows her his secret book, and Ceres is intrigued by all the forbidden ingredients. Mimori lets her keep it, and they decide to head towards the land of golden-eyed monsters. As they cross the river, Mimori almost slips on the rocks, but Eve saves him. Lisbeth tries to cross with the luggage, but as she slips, Piggy saves her. Eve realizes that Mimori has already put up a safety measure, and he tells her that he was in a similar situation as Lisbeth in the past. As Lisbeth makes it across, she wonders what they were discussing about, but Eve tries to make an excuse that they were discussing children born between human and high elves. Eve wonders what the children of Mimori and Ceres would look like, and hearing this makes Ceres lose her balance as she was crossing the river, making her fall into it. Ceres is all wet, and Eve is surprised that even Ceres can get distracted sometimes, while Mimori can't tell if Eve is really dumb or sharp. Mimori then hands over his coat, and hopes that she doesn't mind his smell, but Ceres loves his smell, and wants it all over her body.
Yeah, baby! Yeah.
As they move ahead, Eve senses some monsters, and tells Mimori that these are way above her league. It's due to these monsters that they head back from Land of Monsters last time, so Mimori asks the useless beasthead to step back, and proceeds to take care of the monster. He sneaks to get in range of the monsters, and uses his ability on them. He kills the monsters, and gets leveled up in the process. Eve wonders if Mimori knows about these kinds of monsters, and he tells her that these are called Nazorts. He proceeds to cut them, and Eve wonders if he plans to eat them, but Ceres tells her that Mimori is collecting material for enhancing slimes. Eve wonders if Piggy will be the one ingesting the creepy disgusting substance, and this makes Piggy worried. However, Mimori assures Piggy that it will be fine when the solution is complete, although he's not fully sure. Just then, they sense another monster, but they don't sense any hostility, and it's very close. Piggy points to his bag, and they realize that the egg he had is about to hatch. The egg hatches into a pony, and they notice an organ for absorbing mana, which is a unique feature for magical creatures. Mimori decides to pour in his mana into the organ, and after consuming about 1000 XP, the pony evolves into a dark horse. However, the greedy monster is still not satisfied, and wants Mimori to put more of his juice inside its organ.
What do you mean by that?
Mimori decides to satisfy its hunger, and pours in about 10,000 XP, which makes it transform into a high-level beast with 8 legs. Mimori names it Slay, and Ceres welcomes it into their group. Slay is happy about this, and starts rubbing his horn in the wrong place, making Ceres wet again.
How? Hold on, bro. How?
Meanwhile, we see the other students in the Land of Monsters, and everyone in Asagi's squad compliments her as they have been leveling up at a nice pace. On the other hand, Takuto is pissed at their trainers, and thinks that they are underestimating his strength. Meanwhile, the trainers find some dangerous monsters heading their way, and they decide to handle these monsters themselves, thinking that the students may not be able to handle them. We see that it's the same monsters which Mimori defeated earlier, and the trainers quickly take care of a few of them. Meanwhile, Takuto has had enough, and uses his Dragonic Blaster to burn down the rest of the monster. He hails himself as the future ruler, while the others are wondering what this moron is talking about. Kabato notices that 2 students Hijiri and Itsuki are missing, and we then see them somewhere deep in the forest where they found some spies, who killed themselves after being caught. They think that Vicious must be behind this, and decide to head back. Meanwhile, Mimori and the group are camping in the forest, and they are making better progress because of Slay. Mimori notices some strange light in the distance, and learns from Ceres that it's coming from the direction of Alien Kingdom where Vicious lives. The following day, Ceres notices Mimori missing, but Eve knows that he's not the kind of man who'd leave the pretty girls alone. So, they go out, and find him carving some materials from a human-faced beast which was killed by him. Eve is surprised that he managed to defeat such a beast alone, while Ceres is impressed by his magical hands, and thinks she made the right choice joining his harem.
Stop it. Get some help.
Later, they continue on their journey, and notice that they haven't encountered any monsters lately. Ceres thinks that it could be because they are close to Witch of Taboos, and Mimori asks Lisbeth if she's scared in the land of monsters. However, she thinks that nothing will happen to them as long as Mimori is alive, and Mimori resolves to give his best to keep that faith. They manage to reach a cave, and they will be closer to the Witch of Taboos after crossing this. Eve thanks him for getting them this far, as she always wanted to get out of her life of Bloodsport, and live a normal life with Lisbeth where she'll open up a farm. Just then, a monster suddenly appears behind Eve, and she quickly kills it. However, Mimori feels something is off, and just then the monster lets out a signal to summon other monsters. Mimori senses some monsters coming at them, but after analyzing he's shocked to learn that there are so many of them. Mimori can't believe that the cry of this ugly monster was enough to summon this many beasts, but realizes that they still have some time before the monsters arrive. Just then, Eve offers to draw the beast towards her while they look for the Witch of Taboos. She mentions that her senses are quite sharp, and she's an expert in navigating through these terrains. She asks Lisbeth to listen to Ceres and Mimori, and she plans to go lure the monsters as she feels responsible for this mess. However, Mimori tells her not to feel responsible, and thinks that her survival chances are too low. Also, when they meet the witch, the negotiations will be smoother if Eve is with them, so he plans to distract the monsters with Piggy and Slay, as they have the most chance of survival. He mentions that his skill is the only thing that can deliver lethal blows to the human-faced monsters, and tells Eve to stay back with Ceres and Lisbeth. Eve agrees to his command, and Mimori takes off. Meanwhile, the students are trying to escape from the rampaging monsters, and we see Sogu and Takuto fighting the monsters. One of the girls falls down, but as she's about to be killed she's saved by Kabato. However, the girl escapes, leaving Kabato to fight alone, and Kabato tries to fight the monster. On the other hand, Mimori made the girls hide in a cave, and he poured his mana into Slay to make it transform into its ultimate form. He then tells Piggy to signal the start of the battle, and Piggy uses his mask to project his voice over a long distance, which draws the attention of all the monsters towards them. Mimori is glad that the monsters took the bait, and they start running as the monsters chase after them. He's not sure if he'll survive this, but he couldn't show it in front of the girls. He then combines with Piggy, and Slay keeps running with all his power. Meanwhile, Sogu learns that 2 of the classmates have died in the monster attack, and she asks Yasu about this as they were in his group. However, he considered his life more precious than them, so he only focused on saving himself. Sogu tells him that being the A-class hero, he has a duty to protect them, but Yasu gets pissed, and tells her that it's not his problem as he survived because he was strong. He thinks that those students deserve to die as they used to make fun of him behind his back, and thinks Sogu is nobody to question him. Just then, Takuto appears, and mocks him for losing his cool in front of Sogu, and he is far beneath them. Yasu is enraged, and lets out his power, but Takuto still tells him that he's just a nobody. However, Yasu mentions that being an S-class hero means nothing, even the S-class Sogu still hasn't awakened her unique skill, and she's worthless as her ugly face.
Emotional damage!
He tells Takuto that he's eventually going to show him which one of them is superior, but he doesn't care, and Yasu takes his leave. Takuto then tells Sogu that she's dragging down the name of S-class heroes, and thinks he needs to demonstrate his caliber so that even fools can grasp it. Just then, one of the girls mentions that she can't find Kabato anywhere, and Sogu gets worried. Meanwhile, in the cave, Eve decides to go after Mimori as she thinks that he may not be able to deal with all of them even with his unique skill. Also, Mimori is not in his peak condition, as he has been using his sleep skill on them to make them rest good, while sacrificing his own sleep. She tells Ceres that she wasn't bluffing earlier, and she can move through the terrain hiding her presence, and she also has night vision. In case Mimori is wounded in the battle, she's the only one who can carry him, and Sarah's understands her concern. Eve thinks that Sarah's really likes Mimori, and she admits that she has devoted herself to Mimori. Eve then asks Sarah's to look after Lisbeth, and leaves. Meanwhile, Mimori uses Piggy to cast his berserk spell on the monsters, which makes some of them fight against each other, but the rest still keeps chasing after them. He uses Paralyze on some of them, but it only stops them for a while, and notices that human-faced monsters leading them are starting to adapt to his attacks. Just then, it starts to rain, which reduces the sound of monsters chasing him. Due to this, Mimori can't track them with his ears anymore, and his visibility is not good due to heavy rain. He's also running out of mana due to his fusion with Piggy, but at this rate he can only keep up the fusion only for 10 more minutes. He realizes that he'll have to level up, and target the human-faced monsters since they provide more XP. He then charges at the monster, and attacks the human-faced monsters with his skills. This gives him required XP to level up, and he realizes that the only way he can win this mini-war is by keeping track of his XP and leveling up. He keeps using his abilities on the monsters around him, and gains plenty of mana. Just then, he notices two huge monsters catching up to him, and they are using other monsters as shields to block his line of sight, due to which he's not able to use his ability on them. However, he tricks the monster by getting off from Slay, and catches them from behind. He uses his abilities to kill the monsters, making him level up again. As they continue to ride, Slay trips on some monster corpses, and the monsters soon surround them. Mimori uses his abilities on all of them, but he's barely managing them, and leveling up in the process. Meanwhile, we see Kabato still alive, and she has killed the monster. She wanted to be useful to everyone, and take care of them like Sogu, but she's scared to die. Just then, Eve encounters Kabato, and approaches her, but just then Itsuki attacks Eve to protect Kabato. Eve tries to explain, but her attacks make Eve unable to speak. Eve realizes that these are the heroes from Mimori's world which he had told her about, and Itsuki charges in to attack her again. Meanwhile, Lisbeth is worried about Eve, but Sarah's assures her that she would come back in one piece. Back in the forest, Itsuki attacks Eve, but Eve dodges her every attack. However, Itsuki finds an opening, and just when she's about to send Eve to the afterlife, her sister Hijiri stops her. She explains that Eve is not a monster as she has intelligence, and they can communicate with her. Itsuki tells her that Eve hasn't spoken a word, and Hijiri tells her that it's because her ugly ass has fried the vocal cord of the dumb leopard. They apologize to Eve, and Eve thinks that they are like Mimori. Hijiri introduces themselves as Otherworlders, and Eve is able to start speaking slowly, surprising the other girls. Hijiri tells her that she knows about the rumors of a Bloodsport warrior going missing, making Eve surprised. Hijiri wonders if Eve is searching for someone, and she tells her that she's looking for her master. Hijiri thinks that her master must possess the ability to survive human-faced beasts as Eve is searching in the direction of the monster. However, Eve tells her that her master's abilities cannot be measured by her, and leaves. Meanwhile, Mimori is dealing with the monsters who have surrounded him, and just then, a giant elephant suddenly appears. Piggy tries to attack it, however, Mimori has sucked him dry, so he can't get up anymore.
What do you mean by that?
Mimori then uses his own ability to take care of the elephant, and notices that he still has mana left. However, he realizes that Piggy and Slay are reaching their limit. Mimori then takes off his mask, and we learn that he's injured due to the fall earlier. He checks his stats, and sees that he's over level 2000, but his high level doesn't heal his injuries. He's starting to reach his limit as well, but before that he needs to take care of the final human-faced monster who has understood his abilities, and is hiding from his line of sight. The monster then charges at him while using the bodies of dead monsters as his cover, and it attacks them with its energy beams, which injures Mimori, and Slay. Mimori then asks Piggy to do something, and we then see the monster unleashing another wave of energy beams. The monster sees Mimori's mask, and attacks it, but there was no one. Just then, Mimori appears from the sky casting his ability on the monster, and we learn that he used his mask as a decoy to take care of the monster. Mimori levels up, and unlocks an advanced skill. He decides to head back, but he's in bad shape. Just then, they sense a monster, and Mimori prepares to fight. However, when the monster tries to attack them, it's killed by Eve. Mimori is glad to see her, and she carries them all. She tells him about her encounter with the girls, but she didn't reveal his identity. They reach the cave, and Lisbeth and Sarah's are happy to see them. Later, Eve decides to stand watch, and asks Mimori to rest. Sarah's notices that Mimori is not able to sleep, and she offers her lap to rest. As Mimori uses her lap as a pillow, she tells him that even though he put on a fearless face to fight the monsters, she could sense his lies, and is worried for him. Mimori asks her to keep lending her support, and she vows to support him in every way she could. Mimori thinks that she's overprotective like a big sister, and Sarah's is surprised to learn that he's just 17, as she thought he would be in his 20s. Mimori wonders about her age, thinking that she must be an old hag who had lived over a century, but he's surprised to learn that she's just 19. He wonders if she'll treat him like a little brother, but she wants to treat him as a ruler, who will rule all of her body.
Stop it. Get some help.
Mimori then falls asleep, and Sarah's can't help getting rizzed up seeing him sleep. She puts him down comfortably, but as she's about to get up she trips, and falls on top of him, making her want to kiss him. However, she stops at the last second. Sometime later, Mimori wakes up again, and notices that Sarah's is having trouble sleeping, and he uses his skill to put her to sleep. We then learn that Mimori never fell asleep, and he knew everything that Sarah's tried to do, realizing that she had fallen for him. Meanwhile, Kabato and the Takao sisters are on their way to reunite with others, and the sisters wonders about Kabato joining Asagi's group. She tells them about Asagi who made her kill a monster to pass the test, and that's why she's sticking to her group. Although it's dangerous, she believes someday it will help Sogu. The following day, Mimori and the girls continue their journey, and Sarah's wanted to tell Mimori about last night, but she's afraid of losing his trust, so she decides to tell him later, while Mimori is glad that she didn't realize that he already knows everything, so he plans to continue to play the role of her master. As they go further, they notice magic seals on some trees, and Mimori thinks that these seals will be activated on certain conditions, but Sarah's thinks they are not going to activate since a portion of the seal is damaged. However, as they go further, they encounter similar seals on some rocks which turn into golem. Mimori uses his skill to take care of it, and they finally manage to reach the witch's territory. They notice a small house, and find an underground entrance where they see some golems mining something. Mimori leaves them alone since they are not interfering with them, and as they continue ahead, they encounter a sealed door. Mimori pours his magic into it, and notices that this seal requires a large amount of mana, but he has confidence in his mana capacity, so they manage to open the door. Meanwhile, Kabato and Takao's sisters meet up with the group, and Kabato tells them that she was saved by the Takao sisters. Sogu is glad that she's safe, and Kabato thinks that she's weak now, but she has to get stronger. Hijiri tells Itsuki that they made the right call to search for Kabato as they found spies in the forest who were probably there to assassinate the students of their class. If something had happened it would have made a huge impact on Sogu, and something bad would happen. On the other hand, Mimori and the girls are surprised to see an underground sky, and think that this might be the work of magic. Just then, they notice the Witch of Taboos, and Mimori thinks with her help he can take his revenge on the goddess. Meanwhile, the goddess learns that the great demon empire forces are on the move, and she plans to recall the heroes, excited to know how strong they have become now. Back at the witch's lair, she greets Mimori and the girls, introducing herself as Erika and Aroviel. Mimori is glad that they made it this far, and seeing those massive cannons he's sure that he'll annihilate the goddess with her help. This is where the video ends. Hope you enjoyed this recap.